The following has been developed by state and provincial agencies in association with the Agency for Instructional Television. Together, serving education.
I have a simple philosophy I try to live by.
Which is?
Walk with light.
Hey, I like that. Walk with light. It's simple, yet it says it all. Did you make it up yourself?
No, someone else did.
Oh, it sounded like you made it up yourself.
What difference does it make? It's still a good thought.
Of course, but you should give credit to the person who wrote it. Was it a famous philosopher or a poet?
It could be, I guess. I don't know for sure.
What do you mean you don't know for sure?
Well, I saw it down the corner by the crosswalk. It was written under the stoplight.
Ah, probably anonymous.
Do you still think I have to give the credit?
I would, yeah. There.
Is it okay to use someone else's words? The answer is yes. Well, yes, if you do it correctly, which includes giving credit to the person or the source. Used correctly, a good quote can stimulate interest, support your point, and add believability. Say you were writing about your pet cat. You might start off by saying,
quote,
"The only trouble with the kitten is that it soon grows up to be a cat."
unquote, Ogden Nash.
See? A good quote can stimulate interest. Then you could go on and either agree or disagree with Mr. Nash. But be careful. There is a right way and a wrong way to use the words of other people. Here are Jeff and Sally Ann. Have you two written any reports lately?
Yeah, I just turned them in.
What a coincidence. Were they about cats?
What? No. We had to write a description on a city we visited. 2 handwritten pages, or 1, if typed.
I did mine at Montreal. It was neato.
I did mine in San Francisco. My grandfather lives there.
His was really good. He went to the library and got all kinds of information. In fact, Mrs.Dockstedder asked him to come after class. Probably told me he got an A or something.
No kidding. Mind if we tag along?
Do we have a choice?
Uh-uh.
I didn't think so. Good luck there, guy.
You wanted to see me, Miss Dockstedder?
Yes, Jeff. I'm a little puzzled by your paper on San Francisco. From the swank restaurants high atop Nob Hill to the quaint eateries along Fisherman's Wharf, San Francisco offers a truly eclectic... Eclectic?
I think that means food.
It does not mean food. Look, Jeff, I appreciate all the work you put into this, but where did it come from?
Well, I found this great pamphlet in the library.
And this part here about yearly rainfall and shipping?
In the encyclopedia.
Is there anything in here that did not come word for word from your pamphlet or an encyclopedia?
Yes, right here.
I left my heart in San Francisco. High on a hill, it calls to me.
That's from a song.
I know it's from a song. It was very popular when I was a girl.
You're that old?
Look, Jeff, the point is that the assignment was to write about a city that you knew in your own words.
But didn't you say you liked us to use the library?
I did, yes, I did. However, in this sort of assignment, the important thing is your personal thoughts.
But this is better than anything I could write. Look, where little cable cars climb halfway to the stars. That's great stuff.
Look, Jeff, don't get me wrong. If a quotation is going to make your paper more interesting, then that's just fine.
I thought it did.
But you've copied everything.
I'm a thorough kind of guy.
But there's nothing here, not one single thing to indicate that any of this has come from someone else. There are no quotation marks, no footnotes, no bibliography.
Okay, let's stop for a moment right there, right where Mrs. Dockstedder said no quotation marks, no footnotes, no bibliography. When you use material that is not your own in something you've written, there are ways to indicate that. Quotation marks around the statement, a footnote number, and down at the bottom of the page, the footnote itself, which tells us where the quote came from. And maybe in the back, a bibliography that lists other sources you've used. But Jeff had another problem as well. He overused the words of others. Now remember, the idea is not to use the words of others to replace your own thoughts. The idea is to support your own thoughts and ideas. And you know where you can see that happening most often? On the nightly news. Listen for reporters using or referring to the words of others.
The lawsuit has already run up $12,000 in legal fees, and the cost of an appeal is estimated at $30,000. To use an old Navy phrase, ironically, snag members tell Newscheck they have not yet begun to fight.
Noting that the canal will take at least 10 years to build if approved by voters in June, the grand jury called the project the best possible solution to Orange County's water problems. The big issue is how much will it cost? A recent Metropolitan Water District computer projection showed that a typical family of 4 could be paying an extra $11 a month in the year 2000.
Now she's a traffic officer for the California Highway Patrol, one of about 100 women in the statewide force of 5,000. She's a traffic officer, and she's liking it. The CHP isn't happy with just 2% of its officers being female. It's trying to multiply the women's ranks 5-fold in the next 2 years, shooting for 500 new female traffic officers.
Unsafe lane change, speed, and following are the 3 major accident causes out there. Yeah.
Studies show the female officers are less likely to get hurt on the highway patrol job than male officers, less likely to get involved in the combat of the streets. Standard CHP training was changed when women started coming on the force. The stress now is on leverage and movement, not on muscle. The studies also show the women are every bit as effective, every bit as productive as the male officers.
The big factor will be the weather. Last night, the temperature dropped to freezing, and tonight it's expected to be even colder. One official here said that if they don't find them this evening, the only real hope is that they'll be able to find some sort of shelter for themselves by the evening. Reporting for the 6 o'clock news, I'm Jessica Moore.
The 3 members of that majority were recalled by the voters in January, and now Powell will be back on the job. He's already in and out of City Hall saying, quote, "I'm an old war horse. I'm already working on next year's budget."
Obviously, the use of quotations is very important to those people reporting the news. Veteran newsperson James Cooper explains.
Reporters use quotations because it gives the quality of believability, or as we say, credibility, to whatever it is that you're talking about. It also is important to get attribution as to who says what, so that person's quotation will help give the quality of believability to your story. Attribution is important when you're using a quotation. It means exactly who said what. Rather than say an informed source said something, you use the mayor and give his name, or the senator or the councilman, because that gives a fixed attribution to that quotation. It adds again to that same quality we talked about of believability or credibility.
Attribution. That means crediting a statement to the person who said it. As Mr. Cooper suggests, it can add a lot of credibility to what you're saying. It can add a lot of power, too. And it doesn't have to be in a situation where you're reporting the news, either.
Come on, Scott. But the playing field needs to be redone. It's more important in the long run when it comes down to getting a new system.
Guys, hold it. Now let's get this issue straight. Scott, your group wants to use the money from the paper drive for a new sound system in the auditorium.
Which nobody wants.
And Ricky, your group wants to use the money to resurface the playing field.
Because it needs it.
Needs it or not, we don't have enough money for something like that.
We do so.
How much?
I don't know. Not a lot.
And the sound system? Oh, $632 installed. That was an estimate from Rogers Electronics.
Well, that's enough to have the playing field redone.
No, it's not. I called Ben's construction company. They said, and this is a quote, "We couldn't touch the job for under $1,000.
That doesn't sound right.
Well, it's not just Scott saying it, you know.
Did he really say it? Okay. Even if we do decide to get the sound system, how are we going to convince Mr. Harrison?
We'll submit all of our information in writing. We'll also remind him of how dangerous this sound system is.
Are you an expert on electronics, too?
No, but everyone knows how bad the system we have now is.
May I suggest you use a quotation from Miss White in the Media Center? She said a lot of times that the wiring is old and bad.
I think he's right.
Yeah, you're just saying that because he's in 8th grade and I'm only in 7th.
No, no, no. It's just a matter of using quotations to stimulate interest, support your point, and add believability.
Big shot.
I couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, I did say it myself 2 or 3 times. I think Mr. Harrison, the principal, will be interested in what the Student Council has to say. Now that we've had a couple of good examples of using the words of others to support your own thoughts, what about another thrill-packed episode of the Jeff and Mrs. Dockstedder show?
I think I'm beginning to see your point, Miss Dockstedder. You're basically interested in my thoughts.
Now you've got it. Look, Jeff, why don't you take this home and give it another whack? What took you so long?
I was stopped because I didn't have a hall pass.
Well, Jeff, this is ever so much better.
Excuse me, Mrs. Dockstedder, but what makes it so much better?
Well, in the first place, it seems to be in Jeff's own words.
And I kept the song. I used it to support the point that San Francisco has inspired poets and songwriters. I also indented it and put quotation marks around it.
And what about the encyclopedia and the travel pamphlet?
Well, I didn't quote from them directly, but I did check a couple of things with them. So I included them in the bibliography.
Which, as we all know,
is in the back. I believe that what I have here is a truly eclectic report on San Francisco.
Eclectic?
I looked it up. It means, quote, coming from many and varied sources, unquote. The New World Dictionary, 1962, revised, 1981.
I can see that. Eclectic. Yes, indeed. You can include things from many and varied sources in your own work, and there are plenty of good reasons to do it. A good quote can stimulate interest, support your point, and add believability to what you're saying. Of course, the key phrase here is what you're saying. When you're writing or speaking, people are going to be most interested in your thoughts, most of the time anyway. So when you use quotes or facts from someone else, use them to best advantage.
His was really good. He went to the library and got all kinds of information. In fact, Mrs.Dockstedder asked him to come after class. Probably told me he got an A or something.
I left my heart in San Francisco. High on a hill, it calls to me.
That's from a song.
I know it's from a song. It was very popular when I was a girl.
You're that old.
They said, and this is a quote, "We couldn't touch the job for under $1,000.
That doesn't sound right.
Well, it's not just Scott saying it, you know.
I think I'm beginning to see your point, Miss Dockstedder.
This series was produced by the Tom Eberhardt Company through the facilities of KRMA and KOCE-TV under the supervision of the Agency for Instructional Television.